Good morning, everybody. My name is Bobby Warshell. I am the Partner Channel Manager here at Emergency Reporting. This is one of our customer-facing demos for our partner network. Today, we're going to have Ryan Larson, the VP of Business Development for PSTrax, giving a walkthrough of the PSTrax product and how the integration works. A little bit of housekeeping. We are going to keep the microphones muted. If you have questions, please put the questions into the GoToWebinar menu system. Ryan will periodically ask if there's any. We'll open up the floor as far as those questions that might be in the portal so that he can answer them directly as we're going through. Anything that we don't address, we will try and get to at the end of the session, or we will reach out directly to the individuals with the questions after the webinar takes place. So with that said, Ryan, it's all yours.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot, Bobby. Appreciate you having us today. And good morning, everyone. My name's Ryan, as Bobby said, and I'm with PSTrax, and we're excited to take you through kind of our new partnership that's kind of been announced as of a couple weeks ago, and what that entails with emergency reporting. And I know a lot's going on right now. We're living in some interesting times, so really appreciate you joining us today, and also thank you for all of your support and everything you're doing for our communities right now. In terms of the agenda for today, I'm going to go through a couple slides here and talk about the partnership. I'm going to also walk through the integration and what we've built so far and kind of what we're developing to keep enhancing that. And then also I'll go through a demo of the products. So we have a little bit of a mixed crowd today. I know there's some folks that I think everyone on the phone probably uses emergency reporting right now, or most of the folks. Also, some of the people on the phone use PSTrax currently, so they might be a little bit familiar with us, while others are maybe brand new to PSTrax. So we have a kind of a mixed audience, and I'll try to make it relevant for everyone as we move through here. As you probably know from a high level, PSTrax, what we do is we help you automate all of your operational checks. And as part of our system, we have 6 different modules, and they're listed out here on the home page for your vehicles, SCBA, PPE, critical assets, which is basically any type of high dollar equipment you'd like to track. We have a station module, and then also a controlled substance module if you're an ALS department. And kind of what makes us unique, and we'll talk about this a little more, is that we actually build the entire system for you. So we essentially take the project off of your plate, and we gather up your inventories and the different check sheets you have, and then we actually custom build a turnkey solution for you, and we hand it back and help you roll it out to the crews. So that's kind of what makes us different in the marketplace, is that we guarantee the rollout of the system, and typically it just takes a couple weeks for us to get it built for you. I'm gonna hop right into kind of the new partnership, and we've actually been partners with ER for a few years now, but we're excited to kind of enhance that partnership even further. As of a couple weeks ago, we made some announcements that emergency reporting is now actually going to be reselling PSTrax to their customers in order to offer a more robust check solution. Obviously, emergency reporting, if you're familiar with the program, they have an ER rig checks component within the maintenance module, and so that's still available. But there was a need from some of the client base to have a more robust checking solution, and so that's why ER and PSTrax decided to partner up in this fashion. And as a result of the new agreement, you can actually add PSTrax to your existing contract with ER as well, if you'd like to. So we're excited about that. And some of the things that make PSTrax different when you're comparing it to the ER rig checks or to other solutions you might have used previously is that we're a specialized solution specifically for operations checks and logistics management. So we've actually been doing this 11 years, and this is kind of our little niche that we've dedicated ourselves to. Also, we track all of your checks in one place. I talked about our 6 modules already, but all of those work together within the system. So from one location, you can track all of your different vehicle checks and your different equipment and inventory checks that you have. We've also designed the program to be very user-friendly and intuitive. So that's some common feedback we get, and I'll show you that in the demo today as well. As I mentioned before, we completely customize it for each agency we work with. So you can have unlimited checks, unlimited check schedules and inventories. And every agency is a little bit different. So we set it up especially configured for your agency and how you want it to be set up based on your processes. The pricing, there is an additional cost to PSTrax, but our pricing does include the implementation of the product for you. And we also provide unlimited ongoing support. So anytime you get new equipment or if you get a new rig, you can do that yourself if you want to. You don't have to rely on us, but you can just call us up if you don't have time for it, and we'll take care of that for you at no additional charge. And then finally, we're really proud of this, but we really kind of pride ourselves on providing great customer service. We have about a 98.5% retention rate with our clients. So not only do we want to build you a great system, but we want to build a great relationship with you as well, just like ER does. So those are some of the kind of the key points in terms of how PSTrax is different from some of the other solutions you might be familiar with. In terms of the integration, keep in mind you can certainly use PSTrax as a standalone solution if you want to. I'd say it's split pretty evenly between the ER clients that also have PSTrax. About half of them use PSTrax as a standalone component, and then the other half will take advantage of the integration that we have. So that's an option that's up to you. In terms of the integration that's available, if you want to take advantage of that, you do need to purchase the ER interface package through ER. And if you're interested in that, or if you don't have it, you can reach out to Bobby or your ER sales rep to learn more about that. But once you have the integration, in terms of what we've built so far, we kind of started out by building the vehicle component and integrating that between the two systems. And we've recently added our station component as well. So that'll integrate back and forth. And I'll talk specifically about how that works when we hop in the demo. And then in terms of kind of the next iteration of the integration, we're actually currently working on the equipment module. So syncing up our three equipment components, which are SCBA, PPE, and critical assets, and tying those into the equipment module within ER. And then finally, for the phase 3 that we have planned kind of later this year, ER and PSTrax, we're working towards a single sign-on capability, and that'll be really nice. We're all really excited about that. Basically, what it'll allow you to do is access PSTrax from directly within your ER system. Real quick, I'll go through a couple slides about PSTrax just from a high level in case you aren't familiar with us before. I mentioned this on the first slide, but basically we've kind of specialized in this space for about 11 years. There's other companies that kind of have their own core competencies. Obviously, ER is very well recognized as an RMS program and has a EPCR component too. There's other companies that have their own specialties like training and scheduling and so forth. But what we've done is we've dedicated ourselves to this space and really tried to perfect it over 11 years as we've kind of worked with different agencies. A lot of folks still do their checks on paper or spreadsheets today, so that's kind of the current challenge a lot of folks are facing. Or you might have a clunky system that you're kind of trying to make work for these things. And that's kind of where we come in. Basically, we want to take what you're doing today and convert it into an electronic system. So we always like to say we don't want to reinvent your wheel, so to speak. If you like the way you're doing things, we just want to take those processes and we'll build them into the system for you. But of course, if you're starting from scratch or if you want to see other best practices from agencies around the country, just let us know and we can share that with you too. And then, as I mentioned before, we recognize every agency is different, right? Every department does their checks differently. You'll have different inventories, different vehicle maintenance checks that you want to perform. and different schedules on the frequency that you want to perform them. And so we actually customize the whole system based on your agency and how you want things to be set up. This is actually what the system looks like. And you can use it on any device that you want to. This is kind of what it looks like on a phone, but I'll be using my computer today for the demo. And kind of what we do is we aggregate all those different checks that you have and we put them in one place. So when a crew member logs into their station, they can see exactly what's due today. And all the numbers you see in this image here, those numbers represent what's due today for the crews. So what's really nice is the crews don't even have to remember what check sheets to do or when to do them. The system will just prompt them with those checks to complete whenever they're scheduled to be completed. And again, we customize it all the way down to each vehicle. And as you all know, every vehicle can have slightly different inventories and different equipment that it carries. So we'll actually customize it all the way down to the compartments on each vehicle and list out the different items of inventory that are carried within each of those compartments. And when we built this, I mentioned this a little bit before, but we designed it to be very user-friendly, very intuitive. And that was on purpose because we realized that if it's not user-friendly, then it's really hard to get the crews bought into it. And so because of the way we designed it, we see really high adoption rates with the crews, which is obviously really important. And I'll show you that kind of when we hop into the demo, how that works. All of your data, if you have any paper sheets or spreadsheets still today, all that data will go away, and basically it'll become electronic. So, or I should revise that. I should say your data won't go away, but those paper sheets will go away. So instead of having the paper sheets, all of that data will become electronic, and then you can just download it or export it anytime you need to. In addition to that, as the crews are doing their checks, we have the ability for them to set alerts. So if they see something that's wrong or a discrepancy, they can set an alert. And then based on the category or the type of alert, that'll be sent out to the appropriate people in the department. And I'll show you an example of that as well. The system itself, I mentioned this initially on this slide, but you can use any device that you want to. It's all cloud-based. So you can use a phone, a tablet, a Toughbook, a computer, any device that you'd like. And the reason we built it that way is so that you can actually have multiple crew members doing checks at the same time. So instead of just relying on one person, if you have a big inventory day and you want to have all 3 or all 4 people on the crew out there doing checks, they can all be out with their own device and checking off a different compartment. And as they complete those checks, they'll come off the schedule for everyone else. And we do support barcode scanning as well, if that's a requirement you have. And then finally, you always own your own data. So similar to emergency reporting, all the data is yours. We host it for you and keep it secure, but you have full rights and full access to that. In terms of how we work, all you have to do is email us your documentation. So you can send over your inventory lists and your different check sheets, and they can be in any format that you have. And then from there, our build team will kind of manage the whole project from beginning to end. And we'll take all of that data you send us and we'll import it into the system. And then we set up the system and configure it based on all of your processes and the different events and the different checks that you would like. And once we have it built, we do all the training as well. So typically we'll do it virtually, but we'll first start off by doing administrator training for your PSTrax administrators. And then once we have that training complete, we'll also help you roll it out to the crews. And then, like I mentioned, what makes us really unique is that we also help you ongoing. So whenever you get a new vehicle or if you get new equipment, you can just call us up and we'll help you take care of that if you don't want to do it yourself. In terms of our modules, these are the 6 modules again. Just keep in mind that you can pick these a la carte. So if you just want to start with vehicles, as an example, you can just start with that one module, and then you can add others later on if you want. So you can really, based on your low-hanging fruit, you can pick what makes sense for you. Our vehicle module, this includes everything that rolls on the rigs. So as I mentioned before, every compartment will break out with the different inventory items inside. And then all the different check schedules you have, you might have a basic morning check that the crews complete, and then maybe a more thorough weekly check or a full monthly inventory check. So any of those different schedules, we take all those and then we build them and schedule them in the system for each rig. And even on the checks, the maintenance checks, that'll vary vehicle by vehicle as well. Your trucks will have an aerial check component, whereas your engines won't. So we customize it based on what you need for each one. Our SCBA module, this is for basically managing all of your SCBA equipment. And what's really nice is it'll actually tell you where things were last located. So the packs tend to stay in the same spot, but the cylinders, as you all know, they move around a lot. So what this will do is actually keep track of all those cylinders. And if you ever need to find one for a hydrostat, as an example, you can just go into the system, pull up that cylinder ID, and it'll tell you what seat position on what vehicle it was last located. And in addition to that, we track the full history of all the events that happened for each piece of equipment. So like on this cylinder here, we might have some inspections, some routine inspections that we've done. There might be repairs, there might be hydrostats, there might be air fills. All those different events get documented in one spot. And then if you ever need to, if you get audited or if there's an accident, you can just go in and download all of that history right for that one piece of equipment. And in addition to that, we track all the expiration dates so you can see what's expiring. And as you're doing your budgeting and your planning, you can look out into the future and see what will be expiring by a certain date. And also the cost information. So we'll track the initial cost that you paid, and then also the ongoing maintenance cost to help you justify replacing things when you need to. For the PPE module, this is kind of the same concept, but this is for your bunker gear, obviously. So for each item, we'll track all the event history that happens to it. We track routine inspections, advanced inspections, cleanings, repairs. You can even log exposure events. So if a jacket goes out to a hazmat incident and you want to track that in the history, you can load that in and document it. And just like the other SCBA module, we track all the expiration dates and all the cost information as well. The critical asset module, this is for any type of high dollar equipment, and we can set up any category that you'd like, but some common examples are like your hydrants, your radios, tick cameras, what else? Hose, electronics. So, any expensive items like that. And for each item, you can assign it to a location, like to a station, to an apparatus, or even to a person if you need to. And the system will keep track of where it's assigned. It'll keep track of where it was last located. And if something gets out of place, it'll flag it for you. We track the funding source. So if you have grant funded equipment or items that were purchased from different funding sources, you can filter through those and pull them up really easily. And then similar to those other equipment modules, we track all the events. And the cool thing about this is you can have different events for different types of equipment. So just as an example, on your hydrants, you can set up, like a flow test event and a routine inspection event. But for your radios, you might have a software update event. For your hose, you might have an annual hose testing. So all those different events that you want to track, we set those up for you, and then you can log them and track them in the history. Our controlled substance module, this specifically applies to ALS departments that have controlled substances. But and this is kind of a slightly different animal. For those that have controlled substances, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically what this will do is track all of your different vial handoffs. So for all of your DEA tracking, instead of using paper forms and signing off on those vials, this will make that all electronic for you. And typically the different handoffs that the medics will complete are like an arriving departing handoff in the mornings, any usage events, any restock events, and any inventory checks. all those different events will be documented here. And so whenever you get audited, you can just pull up all of that history and export it if you need to. And for each individual vial, we'll track all the way down to a control number. So if you're sticking an individual label on each vial with a unique control number on it, we'll track that. If you don't do that, that's okay too. That's not a requirement. We can set it up either way. But we also will track the lot number and the expiration date for each vial. And then finally, our station module here, we can do a couple different things within the station module. We track station supplies, EMS inventories, and if you want to do any other specialty checks like building maintenance or chore schedules, we can set those up in this module too. So I think that's all I have for the slides, and I'm going to go ahead and hop over into the demo and kind of show you what the system looks like. But maybe I'll pause for just 1 second. And Bobby, I was just check in with you. Are there any questions so far to this point?
No, I don't see any.
Okay,
We're good.
sounds good. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, I'll keep going then. And if you have a question, feel free to just type that in the chat feature, and we'll answer those. I'll kind of pause periodically to answer those for you. All right, so let me hop over. Just as a reminder, over on ER's website, if you guys would like more information afterwards, certainly feel free. You can reach out to me. My contact information is here. There's also a form on ER's website, and if you complete that, that'll come right to us too, and we can help answer those questions for you. Okay, so let me go ahead and log in. Again, it's all web-based, so you can use any device that you want. Every crew member will have their own username and login. So all the checks that are being documented will be associated with the person that's logged in. And when you log in here, it'll default you to your home station. So I'm at station 1. If you ever need to change locations, you can just click this change button at the top, and then you can view another location if you need to. But here at station 1, this is kind of the home page for the station. So you'll see the schedule, and basically anywhere there's numbers, that represents where there's some checks due. And I'll hop into those in a moment. Also on the home page is any open alerts. So when the crew members see an issue and they set an alert, that'll be sent off to the right people. But it also will stay right here on the home page. So that way any other crew members will be able to see that right when they log in. And if there's any updates, everyone will be notified of those updates as well. And then finally, the journal over here on the right-hand side, this is basically like a digital whiteboard. So if you want to post any communications like training or pass on reports, you can do workout schedules, all of that you can post here, and then the crew members will see that as well. So typically the way it works, and just so you know, I'll kind of focus mainly on the vehicles today, but I'll hop into some of the equipment modules towards the end as well. Typically how it works is the crew members will come in if they see something that's due. So like on engine 1 here, I have 148 items that are due. So it looks like a big check day. We can click right in there, and it's going to take them right to their checklist. So they can literally just start going down and completing their checks. And all of these checks you see here, this is what we customize for you based on what you want. So, your specific checks would show up. Also, keep in mind that you can attach training resources. So if you want to, attach a picture or even a picture of the compartment so they can see what the inventory should look like, you can do that. You can also link out to videos. So if you have training videos, you can link to those as well. And as the crews do their checks, you don't have to complete everything. You might get interrupted or called out to a fire, and so you can just save your work. So if I've just done 4 checks here, I can just log those off. And once I log them, they're all going to be documented in the system. In addition to that, you'll notice that they disappear off of our schedule until the next time they're due. So they'll disappear there, and if I go back to my home page, you'll see that my number of checks has gone down by 4 from 149 to 144. And all those checks are being documented in the system. So from a reporting standpoint, we call them the logs. But if you go into the logs here, this is where you can drill down and pull up all of the check history that's been completed. So if we want to look at a particular apparatus like engine 1, we can pull that up. And you can select all the checks if you want to see everything, or if you want to drill down, we can drill down. So I'll pull up our weekly checks, and within that we have a miles and hours task group. And one of the tasks we complete is an odometer reading. So if I want to go back 2 years and see every odometer check we've done, you can pull that right up, and it'll show you for each one when it was completed, when it was scheduled, and over on the right hand side you can see what crew member completed it, and in this case what mileage or what notes they entered. And all that information can be exported, so when you do need it, it's really easy to access that. So that's kind of how the vehicle checks will typically work, assuming everything's good. If you're doing your checks and you're going down and you have a new issue, you can set an alert by clicking this red yield sign. So I'll just say we have a broken mirror. And once we log that off, because we set the alert, it'll bring us to this alert details page, and we can choose what type or what category of issue it is. And you can have as many different categories as you want. These are all customizable. And for each category, you'll notice down below, there's a list of individuals. So you can actually nominate basically the folks that need to receive that alert based on the type of alert it is. And so as I change my category here, I'm going to get different people down below. So we'll go ahead and make this a vehicle maintenance alert. You can attach pictures as well. And if you're using like a phone or an iPad, you can actually use the camera and attach pictures. So I'll just grab a random picture here for our example. There we go. And we'll go ahead and make this urgent. And so once I set the alert, it's going to be emailed and texted off to all these folks. So I'll go ahead and set it. And once we set it, it'll bring us back to our checklist if we want to keep doing our checks here. But over here on the upper right, you'll notice there's that new alert that I just set. So it's going to be visible right here when the crews are doing their engine 1 checks, the next day. Basically, until this alert gets resolved, it'll stay here for them to reference. And also back here on the home page, that new alert will get posted right at the top. So again, all the crew members will know about it. And what you can do is come in here and add comments too. So maybe in this case, Fleet Services received it, so they can say received by, or Fleet received, pull out of service, bring up reserve. So I'm going to go ahead and add that comment to it right there. Now, as part of the, and you'll notice that gets added to it right away. One of the integration components with emergency reporting, what we've done is anytime one of these alerts gets set, that will automatically create a maintenance ticket over an ER. So if I log over to ER now, I'll just show you that real quick. And I'm going to go to my maintenance module, and I'm going to pull up engine 1 here. There we go. So there's that that new ticket I just created, and you can click in, and all the information about that alert will be brought over. So you can see there's our initial comment. We had a broken mirror, and any updates that get added to the alert in PSTrax, those will also come over. So you notice down here at the bottom, there's that update that I added as well. So we have that alert open. I'm going to go ahead and play out the scenario. And so we're going to pull the rig out of service. So I'm going to click the status here. And when you pull it out of service, if you want to, just so you know, you can deactivate all the checks that go along with it as well, because typically when it's out of service, you probably aren't performing all the daily checks that are normally getting completed. So I'll go ahead and make it out of service. And in a second here, what that's going to do, it'll turn up red for us. There we go. So it's now out of service. And then what you can do is actually physically move it. So if we want to move this vehicle out of station 1, because now we've brought it down to our maintenance shop, I can move it to the maintenance shop. So we'll go ahead and move it. And you'll notice once I do that, it'll actually disappear out of station 1. And if I go up here and change my view, and I'll look at my maintenance shop now, this will show me all of my vehicles in my maintenance shop. And so now you'll see there's engine 1 that we just moved over. So typically what would happen in this scenario is then you would grab a reserve unit and move that over to station 1 to take its place. It's kind of the normal scenario. And going back to the integration, anytime you change the status of the vehicle, or if you move the location, that'll update over here in the ER maintenance module as well. So if I refresh my screen here, you're going to notice that now engine 1 is out of service. Again, just to remind you, because we moved it out of service over in PSTrax. And you'll also notice that our location is now the maintenance shop. So that gets updated as well right there. So anytime things move around or the status moves, that'll integrate back and forth so you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and move this back to station 1. Put that back over there. There we go. And just so you know, there's also a status report here. So if you're ever wanting to see all of your vehicles and where they're at and what the current status is, you can pull this up. And I kind of prefer this table view a little more because you can filter out as well. But you'll be able to see, you know, where your reserve units are, what status is for each of the vehicles. So just wanted to point that out. But I'll go ahead and go back to station 1 here. And you'll notice now engine 1's back in station 1 because I moved it back. And I'll go ahead and just move it back into service too. There we go. And of course, back here in ER, that's going to get updated. So now the red highlight will go away since it's now back in service, and you'll see it's back in station 1 as well. Now, what I'm going to do here is kind of finish out that alert that we had started. So when something gets fixed, when the alert gets resolved, we can close that out. So we'll say, you know, fixed issue. And you can attach other pictures and also a cost to it if you want to. And when we close that alert, I'll go ahead and close it here. You'll notice it'll disappear off of our homepage right away because the crew members no longer need to see that alert because it's now been resolved. But all those alerts will get archived within PSTrax. So from a reporting standpoint, you can come into here and you can drill down if you want to, you know, look up engine 1 and see all the vehicle maintenance alerts for a certain time period. You can just pull that up, and that'll list all those alerts out for you. So you can see all that information, and then obviously you can export or print that if you need to. At the same time, going back to the integration, when we close that alert in PSTrax, it'll close it over here in ER as well. So if I refresh my screen, we're going to see this maintenance ticket disappear because it's going to get closed out. So if I open up engine 1, you'll see now I have no more tickets there because that one's been resolved. And just like it normally will within ER, when you close a maintenance ticket, that'll post to your ER journal too. So you're going to see all of the information with all the comments and the full history right there in your journal. Okay, so going back here, just a couple other things I want to point out about the PSTrax functionality. Typically, the daily checks, these will be scheduled checks that'll happen in the morning. But if you get back from a fire in the middle of the day and maybe you have a dent in the bumper, or you would like the crews to do a post-call inventory check, we have as-needed checks as well. So they can use these anytime that they need. You can pull those up and just select your checklist that you want to perform. And you can use these for fuel logs as well if you want to. So if you have a new issue, you don't have to do all the checks again. You can just, you know, select the ones that you want to perform. And if we have a new issue, you can notify the right people of that. Or like I mentioned, if you want to do a post-call inventory check, you can do that as well. So if you want to have the crews kind of verify everything after a call, they can do that here. Finally, there's also a transfer checklist. So this is really handy when you have a primary rig go out of service, and if you physically are moving any inventory items over to a reserve rig, this will keep track of that for you. So instead of writing it on the whiteboard or on a piece of paper, you can just start a new changeover and select what vehicle you're starting with, and then which vehicle you're moving to, and then just go right down the list here and select the items that you're moving over. And then what this is going to do is keep a record of that, so you'll know what items got moved over, and then eventually when those items get moved back, it'll close that record for you. So just wanted to point that out as well. And the final thing on the vehicles, I talked a lot in the slides about how we customize it for each vehicle. So I'm going to go into the apparatus schedule here. And you can, first of all, this is only an administrator's page, so a normal crew member won't ever have access to this, but this is kind of the brains behind the operation, or the master schedule, if you want to think of it that way. So for engine one here, these are all the checks and all the inventories associated with it. And this is just our demo site, so we have some daily checks, some weekly checks. We have a full monthly inventory where we break out all the compartments with the different items inside. But basically, we build all this for you on an ongoing basis. It's really easy to make changes. So if you want to come in and add a new item that you got, you can load that right in, and it's just going to load that right to the list here at the bottom for you. Or if you want to move things around or copy them to other apparatuses, you can do that too. So we try to make the backend really user-friendly as well. And again, we build this all for you, but I just wanted to show it because that's kind of where all these numbers on the homepage are being populated from, is that master schedule on the back end. Let's see, one final report here I'll show you. This is an out of service report, which is really handy. We have several standard reports, but when you move vehicles in or out of service, this will keep track of how long they were out of service, and it'll automatically calculate that time for you too. And if I scroll down to the bottom, it'll total it here as well, so you can get the total out of service time. So that's obviously, that's nice if you're trying to justify replacing a rig. That's a pretty handy report to use for that. I'll pause here, Bobby, and just check in and see if there's any questions specifically about the vehicles. Anything so far?
No, I'm still not seeing any questions.
No? Okay. You guys are making it easy on me. That's perfect. Well, hopefully that means I'm covering it pretty well. But if you have any questions, just let me know as I move through, and we'll kind of have a short Q&A session at the end as well. I think I touched on, in terms of the current integration, the phase one integration, I touched on pretty much all of that. One other thing I'll show you, going back to the apparatus schedule here, this is a new functionality we just added, but for any of your tasks that we set up, I'm gonna find a particular one, like odometer reading. That's a pretty important task. If you want to be notified of that task in your ER journal, within the settings for this task, we call it ER complete. But basically what that means is anytime this task gets completed by the crews, it'll automatically post that over here to your ER journal as well. And it'll also log it in the maintenance for that vehicle in your maintenance module. So I just wanted to point that out as well. If there's any critical information that you'd like to be notified of over in your ER journal, we can just turn that on, and then you'll be able to get those notifications. In addition to that, just so everyone's aware, PSTrax, our program, sends out a daily status report email. So you will get a summary of all the, basically all the checks that have been completed, anything that hasn't been completed, any new alerts. We send that out on a daily basis also. So that's another way you'll be informed of what's going on. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left. I'll probably spend about 10 minutes or maybe 15 on the equipment modules, and I'll touch on the controlled substance as well. The equipment modules basically let you manage all of your equipment. Like for SCBA, if you want the crews to be able to identify what pack and what cylinder they have in each seat position, that's where these SCBA checks come into play. And we're on engine 1 still, but basically we build out the seat positions, and if you have any rip packs or spare cylinders, we build those slots as well. And what's nice is it'll pre-populate with the gear that was there last time. So if I go to seat position A today and I still have pack 8 and I still have cylinder 14, I can just move forward and do my NFPA checks. But if I have something different, especially the cylinders, you know, they move around quite a bit, I can just clear that current one out, and then I can search for the new one. Or if you want to use barcode scanning, you can scan the barcode right here too, and it'll put in that new cylinder that I selected. So when I move forward to do my checks, now you'll see that I have pack 8, and I'll do my checks for that. And then down below, now I have cylinder 12 in that spot. And once I log this off, that seat position will be complete, and it's documenting all those checks in the history for those items. And then obviously you can move through and do the other checks. So that's what the crews do. We try to keep it simple for them. On the admin side, we have a gear list page. So you can go in here and pull up all your different types of equipment that you have. And I should point out, if you have any equipment loaded in ER already, same thing with your vehicles, we will export that and bring it over and import it into PSTrax for you. So I forgot to mention that earlier, but there won't be any double work for you if you've already done that. So just wanted to point that out. But going back here to the SCBA, you can pull up a particular type of equipment. So if I want to see my cylinders, I can pull those up. And then you'll see for each one all the information about it. So serial number, ID number, our cost. Over on the right-hand side, we have expiration dates and our next hydrostat dates. And you can sort by all these columns at the top. So I can sort by those, and I can see right away I have one that's expired and one that's going to be expiring soon. Oops, I accidentally went back. There we go. But what you can use this page for is bulk events. So as an administrator, if you have a whole bunch of, let's just say you have a whole bunch of cylinders and you're doing hydrostats on them or air fills, you can just select all those items and come up here to batch log. And basically this is a bulk event. So for all of these cylinders we've selected, it'll ask what type of event are you completing? And so you can have any type of event. These are just examples. So I'll do a hydrostat for this one. And we'll go ahead and log that. And if you send it out to a vendor, you can track the cost and even attach the file that they send you back. So I'll just grab a file here for us. There we go. So we'll attach that. And once we log that, that's going to go into the detailed history for all those bottles. And so if I go into this details tab for any of these items, the details page is where all that history resides. So if you ever get audited, I know in some states the commissioner will come and just point at different pieces of equipment and say, okay, show me your records for that. When they do that, you can just pull up that item, and right here it'll show you all the information about it, and over on the right hand side is all the history. So you can go as far back as you need to, but it'll list out all the events that have been completed. So there's that hydrostat I just did and the file I attached. There's the daily truck check I did a few minutes ago, and so we can actually see where it was located on engine 1, seat position A. There's a an air fill. And so any of those events, whether it be repairs or status changes, anything like that, that'll all show up here, and then you can export that when you need it. So that view here, this is kind of the history for one specific item. If you want the history, more of a holistic history for a certain type of event, you can go into the logs, and basically the logs will show you all your different events. So if someone says, show me all your air fills or all your hydrostats that you've done this year, you can pull that up and go back as far as you need to, and then it'll just list those out for you one by one. So you have that entire history right there, and then you can export it. We also have some standard reports for expiration dates and hydrostats. The expiration date, I'll just show you that one real quick. This is really nice when you're doing budgeting and planning. And we have this report for our other equipment modules too, but basically it'll show you all of your equipment and when it'll be expiring, anything that'll be expiring by that date you chose. So hopefully that way you can try to plan to phase in the replacement and not get caught with a big bill at the end of 4 years when all this stuff expires.
Hey, Ryan,
Okay,
we do
so I
have
think,
one question.
oh, thanks, Bobby. Yeah, go ahead.
Will changing an SCBA cylinder or harness reassign the ownership inside of ER? So where you replaced a bottle on that one air pack at the seated position, does it change the ownership assignment inside of ER?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bobby. And I see that question. Thanks, Brian, for asking that. Going back to our integration, right now the integration is built for the vehicles and the stations. And what we're working on right now is the equipment integration. So that's not complete quite yet. But yeah, when that gets completed in the next couple months, that will work that way. So when you reassign something, it'll reassign it over in the ER module. Yeah, thanks for that question. Anything else, Bobby, at this point?
No, that's the only one so far.
Okay, great, thanks. Brian, just along those lines again, if you already have your equipment in ER, like I mentioned before, we'll export that and load it all into PSTrax for you. So you don't have to re-enter anything or anything like that, and we'll get it all set up. Okay, on the assets real quick, critical assets kind of work the same way. Basically, for your vehicles, it'll list out the assets that you have assigned to them currently. So I have this radio that I need to perform an inventory check on. I also have a couple of electronics. And so basically the crews can indicate whether that item is currently present, like it should be, or if it's missing, they can indicate that too. So when they go to perform their checks, if it's present, they can complete those different checks that are required. But if it's missing, what's going to happen here is it's going to automatically set an alert and notify the administrators that this asset is missing. So that way you can kind of start your search process to try to locate that. So I'll go ahead and just log those off. And then because we set the alert, it's going to have me fill this out, but I'll go ahead and set that and it'll be sent off to the right people. And then just like the other checks, once they're completed, they'll come off the schedule there. In the asset list page, you can have any type of asset that you want to track. So, these are just examples here. You can also have specific events for your different type of assets. So like your hydrants, you might have like a flow test event or an annual inspection for your hydrants. So we set up all those different events that you want to complete. And then you can complete those and log them off, and then they'll go into the history for those different items that you logged them for. Same thing with like your hose. If you want to have an annual hose testing event, we can set that up for you. So any of those events we create in the settings, and then we just customize them based on what you want. On the PPE module, you can have scheduled checks. So if you want the crews to perform like an annual inspection, that'll just pop up right here when it's due, and they can just go right down the list and perform their NFPA checks on those and log them off. And as they're done, they'll come off their schedule. But you can also do as needed checks. So if you get back from a fire and you want the crews to maybe log a cleaning, or if they have a rip in their jacket, they can use these as needed checks. And basically it'll list out all the gear that's assigned to them right now down below. So they can just select the items that they need to log, and then what type of event they're doing. So I'll just do like a cleaning on this one. And we can go through and complete those checks. Or if we have a new alert, we can set an alert and send that off to the PPE administrators. And then once we log it, that'll be completed and logged in the history for that. And similar to those other modules, there's a gear list here. So we can go in, we can sort by a particular user. So if you want to see, everything that's assigned to Ryan, I can pull that up, and here's all of my gear that's assigned to me right now. You can reassign things or change the status of it. And you can do that in bulk as well. So if you have a bunch of stuff that you want to log an event for, or change the status or reassign, you can do multiple items at once. So all the equipment modules kind of work similar. So I won't go into too much more details on this one here, but if you have any questions, just let me know. And then finally, I'll just touch on the controlled substance module real quick. This is for ALS departments, but if you want to track your vial handoffs, basically the way it works is the medics can come in here. Usually they do an arriving check first, so they'll select that, and then whatever drug box they're performing that on. And they can indicate how many vials they have. And on the next page, it'll have them confirm those vials by the control number and the lot number and the expiration date for each one. And then once they confirm it, on the next page, they can sign off on it. So this one I just did, that was a arriving departing check. That's usually what they'll do in the morning. And then during the day, obviously, if they have a usage event, they can log those as well. So if we have a used vial, if we use one vial of fentanyl, we can log that. Or if we ever have expired or broken vials, we track those as well. But we can document that usage event. And first thing, we can select the vial that we used. So it'll just show us the vials we have in our box. And we can just pick the one that we used, enter all the incident information and the other usage information that we want to capture here. And then we'll just sign off on that again. And then once we log that, that'll all be documented. So back here on our recent activity right here, you'll notice all of the kind of all those updates. We've now used a vial. This is the incident number, and we can click in and get the detailed record of that event. So this is basically the paperless version of your DEA form, if you want to think of it that way. And we're running a little short on time, so I won't do a restock event right now, but when you get below par level, it'll turn orange like this, and then you can do a restock event to fill up your box again. And all of those different events get documented in the logs. So from a DEA perspective, if you ever have an audit, you can come in here and select everything, or if you want to look at one location and just pull that up, and it'll show you here's all the different handoff events for your vials. And you can click into each one and get the details, or if you need to export it, you can do that here as well. So Bobby,
Ryan,
I'll go ahead and pause. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We had another question on the controlled substance.
Yes, sir.
Can this controlled substance info be pulled from an incident report?
Great question. Yeah, we've actually we don't have that currently. That part hooked up with ER. We have built that for a couple of other industry systems. So basically, when you log an EPCR usage event for that medical call, and if you're already capturing the kind of the vial information as part of that report, we can pull that in. So that was something we were looking at in terms of the integration enhancements. So not currently, we don't tie that yet, but I know ER had that capability with their API to kind of pull information from an incident. And so that was something we were looking at in the future enhancements to the integration. Anything else, Bobby?
Not that I see, no.
Okay. Great. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up here. Just as a reminder, I'll put my contact information back up here on the screen. So if you have any other questions, um, or if you want any additional information, typically what we like to do is we'll do a one-on-one demo with your department, just to answer any questions that you have, and that way you can get the whole team together, and we can get the feedback from the different individuals and kind of show them how it works. So if you would like something like that, just let me know, and we'd be happy to set that up for you. Or if you want any pricing information, we can get that as well. If you are looking at using the integration component, like I mentioned, on ER side, let me just pull that up here. You will need to have the ER interface to take advantage of that. And so if you already have that, that's great. If you don't have that yet, you can just let either Bobby or your ER sales rep know, and they can get you information on that. But yeah, I think, Bobby, if there's no other questions, I think we could probably go ahead and conclude. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your time.
Yeah, we just had the one question about a link to the video, and yes, once this session ends, GoToWebinar will process the video and should send out a link to all attendees that the video is now available to view at a later date. So yeah, with that, I thank everybody for attending. Ryan, thank you. This has been great. I hope everybody got some good insight out of it. Any last comments, Ryan, or we're going to go ahead and shut it down?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining. We're really excited about this new kind of enhanced partnership with ER. Like I mentioned before, just keep in mind that you can actually add this right onto your existing ER contract. So I know that's made it a lot easier for people, some of the ones that we've already talked to. So yeah, no, that's it for now. Thanks a lot, Bobby, for having us, and appreciate everyone's time.
And thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day and stay safe out there. Thank you.